ball.
Your record is going to stand the test of time.
Out of all these great characters, unfortunately, you portraying Jim Brown. He's the only living character out of these people.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, I know Muhammad Ali lived for a long time, but a lot of their lives were truncated and short around this event. But you had to study a man in a period of time. Like, how difficult was it to take Jim Brown, whose views have evolved or changed over the years, and kind of study him in a period? How hard is that for an actor to dissect that?
Well, that is the challenge, is to, because so many people are familiar with him. They've watched him through the years, or they know him now. And the challenge is to portray that familiarity. He was at a different point in his life with, with different topics and things, and even how he moved and how, he's still Jim Brown, but I needed to portray the honesty there, but also allow people to see the true essence of who he came to be. So tying those two together was sort of, it was in my wheelhouse. It kept me thinking about, am I being authentic? Which is the thing that I love, because that's the work that you got to put in and stay consistent with. So I studied him only in the 60s and maybe scratching the surface at early 70s, but didn't watch any of his films, because where we meet him here in this movie, he hadn't yet done all the film work. So I just wanted to see where he was in this era and show who he was now, which was really the interesting thing about it for me. And I really enjoyed that particular challenge.
When looking at those interviews, I know that Cavet show they had James Baldwin. They had so many interesting interviews that have come through there. How interesting was it to see him like sparring with the governor and that host in that interview?
Oh man, that Dick Cavett interview with him and Lester Maddox is one of my favorite interviews ever. Not just because of this film, but just ever, because of how he composed himself and how he managed to tackle this man mentally with his intellect without barely lifting a finger, and Lester Maddox lost his cool because he could not battle Jim on the subject of race, integration, segregation, on the subject of the necessity to address the needs of Black people. He couldn't battle Jim at his intellectual level. Because Jim defeated him mentally, he defeated himself. And I love the representation, because that's what I feel like we as Black people still go through so often today, in terms of having to battle people with ferocity that is still so composed. But it is a great representation of how to manage an obstacle in front of you.
Yes, Cassius Marcellus Clay is the new heavyweight champion of the world, boys.
Yes, he is.
And I don't even have a scratch on my face. Oh my goodness.
Cash.
What's on, Cash?
What? Cash, what?
Why am I so pretty? And I'm only 22 years old. There is no way I'm supposed to be this great. Look, Alexander the Great conquered the whole world at the age of 30, and I conquered the world of boxing at 22 without sustaining so much as a scratch.
That's right.
There he goes.
You do the math.
All right. When is this party going down?
Yeah, that's a good question. What's on the agenda, Malcolm?
Well, I thought this would be a wonderful chance for us to reflect on what's happened tonight. Like our young brother said, there's no denying that greater forces were at work.
You mean no one else is coming?
Oh, rest assured, my brother, you're not missing anything.
You see Regina King, she's a well-seasoned actress, super talented, does so many projects, and now even she's directed TV and now directing this. But you've done, your season 2, you've done a lot of work on the screen, and we hear from the other actors how professional and everything you are. Will you do that directing thing also? Do you feel, is there any itch to get behind the camera and direct some projects?
Yeah, that will happen. I mean, I had acquired and still have acquisition of a short film that I was set to produce and direct, and then COVID hit and quarantine and all that, but I'm still gonna jump on top of that after my schedule sort of opens up for it. But it was never really fully in my wheelhouse because I didn't have the confidence for it. But as a writer, and I write, you naturally have a vision of, and I knew eventually one day it was going to happen. So I'm gonna stick my toe in there with a couple shorts, and I'm gonna graduate from there. But I studied Regina for sure.
Yeah. She's amazing. She's like all-time favorite. But whatever you're doing, man, I'm a fan. I'm gonna watch, support, cheer you on, no matter what you're doing, man. I can't wait till we get on the other side of this pandemic so we could, what I'm saying, be in the same room again, bro.
Exactly, man. But it was great to see a familiar face, though, man. You popped up, I was like, yeah, it's dope.
All right, man. Thanks for the time and thanks for the great performance.
Likewise, man. Be easy, brother.
The entire city of Miami is celebrating.
I'm the new heavyweight champion of the world, and I don't even have a scratch on my face. Oh my goodness.
Cash. Cash?
Why am I so pretty?
Hey, congratulations, champ.
I could get used to that.
Right. LJ Marbury, Black Tree TV. Hi, Eli. How are you doing today?
I'm good, LJ. What's up, Black Tree?
Nothing much. Okay, so the first thing I would like to know is, what was your first reaction once you got the role as Cassius Clay? And was there any pressure once, you started preparing for that role?
You said, what was it like when I first found out that I got the role?
Yes.
Oh man, it was a dream come true. I'd wanted to play Cassius for years. It was someone who was a real inspiration to me, obviously an inspiration to our whole community. Grew up knowing about his fights, knowing about his story. It was like a dream role. And no, I didn't feel any pressure. I felt very prepared. I felt like I had already built the character through preparation because I had planned on playing him in a play before. I had a film that I had auditioned for that I didn't get for him with Ang Lee. And so I spent a lot of time preparing for this role before I even had it. So I felt really prepared and excited for the opportunity.
Okay. What was the dynamic like in the room actually filming with your co-stars and all of you all, representing these Black icons?
It was like it was like a high-speed chess match. It was like really high intensity, very, very high level of skill. A lot of like listening and thinking and reacting and having to really know your character to know how your character is going to respond when one of the other actors does something, because everybody had really prepared themselves and we were operating with such a small amount of time to shoot the film. You really had to come in knowing where you were at in the story and where your character was at personally.
Oh my goodness.
Cash.
Cash?
What? Cash, what?
Why am I so pretty? And I'm only 22 years old. There is no way I'm supposed to be this great. Look, Alexander the Great conquered the whole world at the age of 30, and I conquered the world of boxing at 22 without sustaining so much as a scratch.
That's right.
There he goes.
You do the math.
All right. When is this party going down?
Yeah, that's a good question. What's on the agenda, Malcolm?
Well, I thought this would be a wonderful chance for us to reflect on what's happened tonight. Like our young brother said, there's no denying that greater forces were at work.
Okay. And throughout filming, what was your favorite part?
Probably the fight scenes. Fight scenes were a lot of fun. I'd say the fight scenes, there was a crowd there. It was a live audience. It was before COVID, and they were calling me champ and giving me gifts, and like I felt like I was really really the champ, which was cool.
Okay. All right. And then last question, if you wanted to take anything away from the film, or you wanted the audience to take anything away from the film, what would that be?
Man, personally, what I took away from it was just a boldness of faith. I'm a Christian, and Cassius's boldness and conviction with his faith has really inspired me to be more bold about mine. And as far as the audience, I think perseverance is the message. All these men overcame so much to be able to lay down groundwork for future generations. They just never, they never allow themselves to relent or to quit or to give up the struggle. And I think perseverance was the main thing.
Okay. Thank you for your time. It was a pleasure.
You too, LJ. Take it easy.
Regina, I always love talking to directors, and it's ironic that 2 years and some change ago, when we was talking in Toronto for Beale Street, we talked with you and Coleman about being a director-actor. So I have a couple of questions about this, because taking a stage play to a screenplay, what's important about making that not feel like stage, but to make it feel like a film?
Well, in this particular case, you know, the rare circumstance of a author of the writer of the stage play did an amazing adaptation, the screenplay adaptation. So usually it doesn't work that way. Usually someone else has to come in to kind of help the process along. So Kemp Powers is the writer, done, you know, most of that heavy lifting. We all of the themes, when I read the script first, and then I wanted to see, I was just blown away that it was a play. There were some moments that I felt like, oh yeah, I can tell, because this dialogue is the star. It's, you know, no doubt about that. But you know, he all of those themes are still there. When I read the play, they were still there in the screenplay. And I don't think we even say one line from the play until, like, you know, 30, 40 minutes into the film.
Wow. Yes, Cassius Clay is the new heavyweight champion of the world, boy.
Yes, he is.
And I don't even have a scratch on my face. Oh my goodness.
Cash.
Cash?
What? Cash, what?
Why am I so pretty? And I'm only 22 years old. There is no way I'm supposed to be this great. Look, Alexander the Great conquered the whole world at the age of 30, and I conquered the world of boxing at 22 without sustaining so much as a scratch.
That's right.
There he goes.
You do the math.
All right. When is this party going down?
Yeah, that's a good question. What's on the agenda, Malcolm?
Well, I thought this would be a wonderful chance for us to reflect on what's happened tonight. Like our young brother said, there's no denying that greater forces were at work.
You mean no one else is coming?
Oh, rest assured, my brother, you're not missing
I also thought it
anything.
was like interesting casting choice, because these are all four great men. But when you look at them, definitely Muhammad Ali and Malcolm X kind of stand on a mountain of their own. And in the past, we've had Will Smith do an Oscar nominated role for Ali, and Denzel do an Oscar nominated role for Malcolm. But the actors that played these roles, Kingsley and Eli, were kind of not as known to everybody. You know, what was that an active choice to make those, to take them and bring like newer faces to that screen, or?
No, there wasn't actually active choice. You know, the choice was the best actor for the role. And, you know, there were some actors that wouldn't audition. You know, this was my first film. So I couldn't rely on, just because you say you're going to do a good job and you have a name, that is going to be the reason why you're playing this part. I need to see it. You are going to be playing two of the most photographed men in history, you know, and you know, the same kind of goes for all four of them. And the thing about Eli and Kingsley is that they both never, ever at one point felt intimidated by the fact that these characters were played by great actors prior to them, that they knew that they wanted to play these roles, and they showed.
I have to ask, like, why has Atlanta become the epicenter? I've seen that you tweeted a lot about the election. I know you filmed Watchmen down here. But why has Atlanta become like this epicenter of focus right now? And what does that mean for the Black community to have this city like kind of rising at this time?
Well, I think politically, Georgia has been the focus. But Atlanta in Georgia is like, you know, New York in New York. And LA in California. You know, it is the city that everyone in the state is the most popular city, the most culturally diverse city, if you will, in the state. And I think because of that, you hear Atlanta, you know, that pop up a lot, even though the drive was Georgia, you know.
Yeah.
And Georgia showed, improved. Thank you, Georgia.
Well, I gotta say that you are I always say this to you, but you are my favorite actor. Put my hand on the Bible. I had to tell my girl to chill out. I'm about to interview Regina King. I'm always rooting for you, and I'm glad to see you like in the director's chair for a feature, because I've loved all the stuff you've done on TV already as a director. So keep on doing it. We'll keep on watching, and you know you always got me, your biggest fan.
Thank you, Jamaal. It's always so good to see you, brother. Always.
Good to see you too. All right.
All together, yeah. The entire city of Miami is celebrating.
Jamaal Finkley, Black Tree TV. I don't know if you remember, Leslie. Last time we seen each other, we was hanging out in the elevator in Central Park South for Harriet.
Oh yes, of course. You're good to see
yeah.
you, bro. Good to I love the whole vibe background too. It's amazing. The painting, the color, looks great.
Well, I gotta tell you, man, I don't know if you check your Twitter mentions, but after I saw this film with Macro about a month and a half ago, I tweeted like, Leslie Odom Jr. finally is gonna get his Oscar nomination for this. And I'm dead serious about that. I really feel that your performance as Sam Cooke stood out among all these great actors and this great director, Regina King, that put it together. I really thought it was like real standout, and to see the monologues and the conversations between you and Kingsley portraying Malcolm X was just like an amazing thing. So I really am pulling for that, and I hope that happens for you.
Thank you.
One of the things that was interesting to me was that the song In the Wind by Bob Dylan, and that conversation, to find out later that Sam Cooke actually recorded that song later on. Like how momentous was this night to have so many elements that happened from it? Like what do you think about that?
Kingsley and I talked about at the beginning of that, we were talking about, art is symbolic. It's never literal. There's no frame around our life. That's what the artist does. That's what Kemp does and Regina does. They put a frame around people acting. So it exists in symbolism. So on that night, it's not literal. On that night, Malcolm represents Sam's insecurity about what he's offering the movement. It's historical fiction, so we don't know that a conversation like that literally happened, but we can imagine that it did. And we certainly do. It moves us with veracity because we've had those conversations amongst each other. So I actually went back to Blowing in the Wind for the song that I wrote for the movie Speak Now, because that was Sam's original inspiration. He was so troubled by the fact that the little folk singer, that little white boy, wrote this song that spoke more to the movement than anything Sam had done. That's really not what he hadn't synthesized it all yet. And so, he did record Bob Dylan's Blowing in the Wind, and he sang it, many times. But slowly he chipped away at, I think, his greatest, in a lifetime, in a career full of exceptional work. He gave us one of the most timeless, impactful songs in modern history, with The Change Is Gonna Come. And it was the synthesization of his whole life. That is the coming together, not only of his relationships with men like Malcolm and Cassius and Jim. It's his training in the church. It's his training as a gospel singer, then moving into pop music with You Send Me. He really puts all of that together, his activism too, and he gives us this song. And then he leaves us, of course, not too soon.
I know when I'm being watched, Sam.
Boy, your paranoia is really cramping my style now.
Come on, just because you can't see bugs don't mean they ain't in the house, Sam.
Up on this dirty ass roof.
Why don't you be like Bing Crosby about that shit, man, and accentuate the motherfucking positive? Look at this view.
I bet they're doing them for me. It's nice, ain't it, Malcolm?
Yeah, it's most definitely soothing, Cass. The air up here is cooler.
Far away from the prying eyes of your G-men.
Yeah, you joke all you want, Sam. I'm telling you, it's got worse since the tension between me and Mr. Muhammad. I met with a writer in New York a few weeks back. There were two guys following us through the airport. I swear it was the same two.
I thought you didn't trust writers.
Oh. This one was a brother, and well, this meeting was important. I figure I better start getting my life story documented in my own words while I can.
Yeah. And lastly, I do have to ask about that. I mean, his death was not too many months after this historical fiction meeting, and I don't think that we've explored it. I've seen it in documentaries, but do you think after like doing this character that maybe somebody's going to take a deeper dive and maybe put a feature of Sam and talk about some of this life story of this great artist, musician, friend of Malcolm X and everything else?
I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if Macro got the money together to make a biopic about Sam. Because it's a fascinating life. You know, with this movie though, I didn't want to deal with his death at all. I know Kingsley felt the same way. I wanted him at his most alive in that room. I thought that would be the best way to honor him, that tragedy wouldn't be anywhere lurking in the corners of that hotel room, that him with his brothers on that night, for one night in Miami, he could be alive again, and Malcolm could be alive, and Cassius could be alive. So that's what I focused on with the movie.
Great song in the movie, great performance, really rooting for you. I mean, if it doesn't get it, you definitely deserve that nod, and the consideration is out there for your performance. Thanks, and I wish you the best going forward.
So happy New Year, stay safe, all right?
Same to you, brother.
Mountains without lifting a finger.
Minister Malcolm X.
Good news, the chariot is coming.
Hey, Kingsley.
Hey, Jamaal.
First, you did an amazing job, and you know I'm a critic, so I should be familiar with more of your work. But you're a new face to me, and I was a little skeptical when I seen this new face playing such an adorned character as Malcolm X. But your performance earned every bit of that casting, and that decision was like the perfect decision. What did you learn about Malcolm X that we haven't seen in the autobiography, or that we haven't, seen in the depictions that Denzel has played? Like, what did you learn in playing this character in One Night in Miami?
Do you know what I learned that blew my mind? Is that Malcolm said to Dick Gregory around this time, this very specific time when there was his relationship with the nation was coming to an end, and his relationship with Elijah Muhammad was crumbling, and his life was becoming in danger. And he said to Dick that he felt weak, he felt hollow, and that no one knew the torments that he went through around this time. And that just blew my mind. And Dick described Malcolm, the Malcolm in private, the Malcolm who was Dick's friend, the father, the husband. Dick described him as sweet and bashful, kind, good-humored, a gentleman, and a comedian. So that was my way in. And even before I read that interview with Dick, Regina and I spoke about, before she cast me, the importance of tapping into Malcolm as a human, and his decency, and he put his life on the line for Black people, man. He risked it. He died for the cause. He was serious about what he was saying, and he just really, you get to at the end of a project like this, you spend as much time with Malcolm as I did, listening to him, watching him. It's really hard when it comes to the end, because it's damn, he's gone, and him and Sam will both be dead within a year of this, this night. Him and Cash never spoke again a couple of weeks after. They fell out. Yeah. So it's a really, really interesting moment to get to play Malcolm.
I know when I'm being watched, Sam.
Well, Your paranoia is really cramping my style, Malcolm.
Come on, just because you can't see bugs don't mean they ain't in the house, Sam.
Up on this dirty-ass roof.
Why don't you be like Bing Crosby about that shit, man, and accentuate the motherfucking positive? Look at this view.
I bet they're doing them for me. It's nice, ain't it, Malcolm?
Yeah, it's most definitely soothing, Cass. The air up here is cooler.
Far away from the prying eyes of your G-men.
Yeah, you joke all you want, Sam. I'm telling you, it's got worse since the tension between me and Mr. Muhammad. I met with a writer in New York a few weeks back. There were two guys following us through the airport. I swear it was the same two.
I thought you didn't trust writers.
Oh. This one was a brother, and well, this meeting was important. I figure I better start getting my life story documented in my own words while I can.
And you must have, and I asked Regina about the casting, and she's said best person, best actor for the job, and I agree. But of course, we heard this conversation come up with Cynthia and Harriet, and when British actors, and I had this conversation with Steve McQueen also, when British actors are playing these African Americans here. Have you ran into any of those conversations yet, and how do you? I mean, what do you say to those people that have that feeling that you guys are a different kind of Black, or that you're not American Black enough? Or, you know, what do you say to that? I don't. This is not my feelings.
For sure, no, I completely understand, and I noticed questions coming, and it's like, this is a conversation that is unpacking as we speak, and we don't know. We're in the middle of this. Like, we're in the middle of trying to figure out like representation and who should be playing who and who shouldn't be playing who. And, you know, I can talk about this from a casting point of view, and like each casting process is different. You know, every film has its own different casting process. There was someone else lined up to play this role, and they pulled out. Regina had 2 weeks to find her Malcolm. There's a thing of availability as well. Like, all of the best actors, they're busy all the time. You know, like, this was a really specific instance. And and Regina, it took a long time to cast me. You know, like, I was waiting for weeks, and I convinced Regina that I wasn't scared of this, and I understood who Malcolm needed to be in this story. I persuaded Regina that I was confident and up for the challenge, and you know, and I had to trust her instinct. The opportunity is too big. You know, I threw my hat in the ring, and you know, and the rest is history. But I get it. This is a big conversation, and you know, representation in all senses. You know, this is something that we're right in the middle of, and it's important that we keep interrogating and we keep discussing these things. And it's not going to be comfortable all the time. You know.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you bringing it up, and yeah.
Well, great job, man. I mean, that was really a standout performance. It was real. It really felt like I'm looking at Malcolm. The same kind of the same instance it felt like when I was watching Denzel's portrayal. By the end of the film, you were on that T-shirt with, you know, by any means necessary. That was you. That's the, you know, and I appreciate the performance, and I appreciate the honesty and the answer. Can't wait to see everything you got coming out. Great performance, great film. Shout outs to Macro and Regina for making this happen. And I can't, again, thanks.
Thank you, Jamaal. I appreciate it, bro. Thank you for your words.